So, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara this morning. It is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. And, we got some interesting things to talk about. So,
Well, I would like
yeah,
first of all, to take credit. Our show can take credit because when this trade thing started happening between this mutual tariff thing started happening between China and the U.S. and Donald Trump says all they got to do is call me, and they weren't about to call them. We said here on this show that they would have to meet in some place neutral. There
yeah,
was no way that they were going to get. That's the only safe, safe, face-saving way in which they could do it is meet somewhere neutral. We said that right here on the show a couple of times, and that's what they did. They went and they met in Switzerland, and they said, "Oh, it's just because they bumped into one another while they're doing some other stuff in Switzerland and decided to have some talks," which is baloney. And where are they now? Where are they now, Peter? They are exactly where they were before the whole kerfuffle began.
yeah,
The United States is dropping its tariffs by 115%, and so is China. So they're exactly where they were before the whole baloney started.
yeah,
What was the point of all of that? What
yeah.
was the point of all of that? Now they say they're gonna stall, or they're gonna remove back off the tariffs for 90 days and continue talks. Well, they could have done that without any of this disruption at all. Nothing. So Trump has lost big time here. All he had to do was knock on the door and say, look, we got to do some negotiations with this trade deal. But all he did was scare everybody. But now he wisely went right back to his first position, which was, moderate tariffs on China, something that China could handle very easily.
Yeah.
And
They're not going to. You see, the thing about 25% or even 15%, that's like it's like you would pay on your HST or something, right?
excuse me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I got some kind of cold here.
And then, as Mike says, billionaires made billions, Dave.
Yeah,
Because
they do.
the stock market crashed, and the
Back
stock
on.
market kind of will come back up again, and that's of course where those people make their money.
Oh, yeah. You can imagine the stock market today would just fly up.
I said right at the outset, that there had to be something in it, and it wasn't. It took me a little while to figure out that it was the stock market, but from then on, hey, we've been following what the stock market's been doing.
And
Every
we've
time
seen
you
the
talk about
Republicans,
tariffs,
some main Republicans are making some pretty nice coin.
every time he talks about tariffs, his friends know get you sell. And when he backs off from tariffs, it's buy.
Yeah.
That's the whole point about it. Okay, so welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. It's May 12th, 2025, and this is your talk show about news, politics, and things that impact Niagara Falls. So, okay, so the first of these stories is the Quebec riding of Terrebonne has flipped back to the Liberals after a judicial recount. The recount was ordered by the judge. And the interesting thing is that this riding was called initially for the Liberals, and at the last minute changed to victory by the Bloc, and they won. They won by 44 votes, and now it's a win to the Liberals by 1 vote. So
one vote.
Yeah, the current count is that the Liberals got 170 seats.
Yeah, so
but there are 3 more recounts underway.
Yeah, the Liberals could conceivably be within 1 vote of majority, or 1 seat with a majority, which give them power. All they have to do is convince 1 NDP or 1 Bloc person to come in.
Yeah, it's actually if they're with it, if they get 171, it's almost impossible for them to stop them doing whatever the program they want to do. Because you actually have to come up with 172. That basically means that a free voting person, let's say like Elizabeth May, can can vote whichever way she wishes.
Yeah, it's also it's we should also mention here, even though the NDP do not have enough votes to be official party status, they're negotiating with both the Conservatives and Liberals, trying to make it look trying to convince them to make a special sort of exception with them and have them declared as parties special. Party status. And I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know why they just said, "Look, we took a beating." I'm pretty sure they might have some sympathetic ears with the Liberals because if it wasn't for them hitching their wagon to the Liberals for so long, they would have had more votes because it made it very clear that they were nothing but Liberals in NDP clothing for a couple of years now.
Yeah, and we actually, what they actually need in this process is probably convince one Liberal, one NDP to actually side with the Liberals, and that kind of virtually guarantees a Liberal success.
Yeah.
Or know which way the NDP are likely to vote. For example, the NDP will therefore potentially have a free vote in the House, and you might find one NDP that will vote on a transport policy in favour of the Liberals, and another NDP that will vote on childcare policy in their favour.
Well, they can still hold the balance of power. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Even though they don't even have official party status, they hold balance of power. Oddly enough, the 7 seats of the NDP hold the balance of power. Those couple of votes are essential. I got a cold, jeez.
Yeah,
I haven't had one of them in a long time.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, interesting thing is about this. So the Canada's election rules that when it's less than 0.1% overall vote in the riding, that there has to be an election, and of course, an election that was won by 44 votes is clearly within that remit. So Elections Canada has also announced that a recount will take place in Milton East, Halton Hills South, where the Liberal candidate edged Conservative by 29 votes. And that riding was initially declared to Conservatives, but flipped to the Liberals after the validation process. And a recount is also in the Newfoundland and Labrador riding of Terra Nova Peninsulas, where the Liberals won by 12 votes.
Okay.
So it's not over yet. And the further one is there's an Ontario riding of Windsor, Tecumseh, Lakeshore, where the Conservatives won by 77 votes. And there's all your 4 areas.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. So actually interesting is I would hope that they would actually finish these recounts by next week. By next week, when the 2 weeks' time, when the actual state opening of Parliament occurs.
Yeah, well, King Charlie's supposed to come over, isn't he?
Yeah.
Finally, we got a job for the guy.
He's got to.
If he comes over here and does the heavy lifting of opening Parliament, is he then when that's all over? Is he then eligible for unemployment insurance?
No, you see, he's got the ultimate gig. He's Chris Simone would be proud of the king. He's the ultimate gig, gig job person, isn't he? He's got a gig here and a gig there. He goes and speaks for 20 minutes here, speaks for 20 minutes there, opens a factory, opens a highway and things like that. So
Yeah,
what a role.
Pretty useful having a king that has no power anymore. They could do all that ceremony stuff. I think they did like they do in Denmark and Holland, where they still have kings and queens.
Yeah.
And Norway. Yeah, it's very ceremonial and I mean it's symbolic. It's kind of useful to have a monarch with no power to kind of be representative of the country. But I don't think we need the king. But anyway, that's every time it comes up, it always says, you know how expensive it would be to get rid of the guy? Oh, well, okay.
Okay, so the other question about this voting was, of course, everybody would know that, well, the shape of Niagara South changed because it went from Niagara Center to Niagara South. It added in Fort Erie, but that change also meant that we brought along with us a conservative winner.
Yeah, I have to dispute. I was listening to Chris Regis and Paul Calamere, and they were talking about the gerrymandering that happened, and they suspected gerrymandering, especially in certain areas, and they felt that there was gerrymandering that happened in Pierre Poilievre's riding. Well, if they had gerrymandering, why did the Liberals gerrymander themselves right out of a seat down here? Obviously, obviously, if they're not that good at gerrymandering.
I don't think that there was gerrymandering when it came to Pierre Poilievre, but what I do think there was is that the people targeted Poilievre.
Possibly, but he didn't. He apparently didn't pay a whole lot of attention to his own writing until it was too late.
Yeah,
and we could see that was the same with Jagmeet Singh. He got even more destroyed.
Yeah,
but
because he didn't even.
Singh can't recover. Singh can't recover, but Poilievre, he just goes out west.
Yeah.
And
well, Singh was defeated by a massive amount. He didn't even come in second. He came in third, and by more than 10,000 votes. I think 12,000 at the end of the day.
Yeah,
12,000 vote deficit.
You know that he wasn't. If he'd been watching our show, he'd be listening to our show. He wouldn't be in the mess he is in now. We've been telling him for over a year now.
Yeah.
You've got to have some sort of identity. You can't hitch your wagon to the Liberals like that.
Yeah. Okay, so Davis, who won Niagara South, was a fairly well-known guy because he was a Niagara Regional Councillor.
Okay.
Right. And the funny thing is, during this election, for whatever reason, they declared both Vance Badaway and Fred Davis as incumbents. And I think the reason they did was because of the territory that was Fort Erie was, of course, Tony Baldinelli was incumbent there.
Well, yeah, that could be it too. And I think Vance Badaway could see that there was danger there when they incorporated Fort Erie into his riding, because he had to know that that was a huge amount of conservatives being added. That was tough. He had that riding, that one before that one was created.
Yeah, Niagara Center. Yeah.
For 10 years. He had it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he was decisively defeated in the election. So that's what changed riding borders will mean. I mean, we have to do it by population, basically. That's why we change ours. Yeah. In the States, it's and I wouldn't doubt some kind of gerrymandering goes on from here and there, but it's a lot more transparent up here. Down in the States is absolutely terrible.
Well, I wish they would go get some.
How they gerrymander. I mean, it's stupidly obvious. You know, when you have a group of people over here and in a long line to a group of people over there, and that makes a jurisdictional district. I mean, it's just idiotic, you know.
It is. Yeah, and it's like the only thing I would say about the federal ridings is that when they put them in, they should talk to some local people, because I think the way they recast our area, they did it wrong.
Possibly. I don't know.
We needed to have actually. We needed five ridings, not 4. Because we're approaching the 500,000 mark in the region.
All right. So like, yeah. So anyway, that's, I don't know what else to say about that, but that's that.
It is. Yeah. All right. Let's move. Okay. Let's move on about, we got some comments here, by the way. Okay, let's go. Let's take that off. Let's go look at some of the comments that we've got. So, okay. Good morning, everybody. Says Betty. We need electoral and constitutional reform so bad. Says Mike. All right, Betty. Some allow other man from nowhere to come in and be our prime minister. Yeah. Ballots played with Pierre is PM. There's a lot of allegations about ballots being played with. I'm not so sure. Right, it's changing fortunes, and basically, I don't think that Pierre Poilievre moved a stance on his for his party quick enough. You know, he started to get the votes late, but too late. Another week.
He didn't pivot. He stuck with the populist Trump type of which served him well when he was against Trudeau, but as the Ontario Conservatives were quick to point out, you blew it, man. That way you're doing that. Your campaign stinks, and they were getting a hold of it near the end there. I think if the campaign was 2 weeks longer, they may have been able to make some more reversals there. But yeah, they blew it at the very beginning, and the same thing happened in Australia. Once you have a party and it starts picking up on that populist type of rah-rah rhetoric that's Trumpian, that scared people. It says, oh no, we don't want anybody like that here. Yeah. So where in Australia, the vote was completely turned around. Here was all completely turned around. Conservatives should have won here. I forget who in Australia should have won, but I think Labor in Australia won or something like that. But they were just like the Conservatives about to lose, and then along comes Don. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Unemployment is at the highest rate since 2013.
Sadly.
Yeah, very sad. And that's actually one of these statistics that one hates to hear. You know, so that's on Ontario's unemployment rate, by the way. I forgot to put that one up. So we actually need some moving forward. Doug, Doug, get it going.
Yeah. Well, we might get a little bit lucky here. The reason why I'm saying so is because Donald Trump is beginning to get very worried about the midterms. He's putting a lot of money into the midterms right now. And he understands his tariff policies are not doing him too much good. So he might settle up with the Chinese very quickly, like already right away. He just went right back. He demanded that Xi phone him. Xi wouldn't phone him. and wouldn't phone them. So they had to have this low-level meeting in Switzerland. And what happened? They just went right back to where they started from. And I think that's going to happen with us here in Canada when they start making deals. I think depending on how much economic pain our particular sanctions have on U.S., he may withdraw. He may stop the tariffs or reduce them because he needs to become more popular. So we'll see about that. He needs that midterms. He's afraid of the midterms. So right now his popularity is low, and that had a lot to do with the tariffs.
Mm. And those midterms are always odd, and it's like he's only 100 odd days in the job, and he's worried about the midterms already.
Well, yeah. Now his ace in the hole is the Democrats got nothing. They're disorganized. They don't have their nothing. They're just they haven't been able to take advantage of all this tariff hoofra and Trump attacking the judiciary and attacking, and making one executive decision after another, which is contrary to the Congress. And so, yeah, so that they're in a situation now where the the Republicans are still sycophants, but the Democrats got nothing. And the Democrats should be able to wipe them off the face of the earth if they had something to offer, but they don't. So Trump wants to get all that fixed up, and and as a result of that, he might ease off on some of the tariffs on Canada because we are tariffing areas, red states, and we're tariffing red states. So he doesn't want them to switch to blue. So.
Well, okay, so yeah, but back to Ontario's unemployment rate. Basically, apart from the blip in the pandemic from March 2020 till June of 21, basically that's the only time when there was actually a mega rise in unemployment. It went up to about 14.2% in 21, actually 2020 May, but has been but is in the last few months has been rising from originally 23 April 5% to now basically 7.8% in 25.
Yeah.
Right. Not good news at all. And I'm wondering whether we've got, like, there's another story in here about one of the problems that we've got is about lack of, well, yeah, in fact, actually, why don't we bring that one forward? Ontario is struggling to reach its home building goal.
Yeah, we hear about this all the time, the build homes faster bill and all that. Well, it's not really working. So
Yeah.
houses aren't going up. And that's because you cannot create a house. The feds came around throwing money at every different municipality, saying, here, build a house, build a building. Well, they gave the money, but they can't do that at a snap of fingers because you need tradesmen, you need material, you need all that other planning stuff that happens.
Well,
and Ontario Build Fast Better gave incentives to do that, but guess what? If you still don't have the people to build it, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah. And the point being is it takes a certain amount of time to build a house, right?
Well, they're probably looking more for apartments and condos and things like that, where in a small area they can house a lot more people concentrate.
Yeah, but I'm saying whether you're building a house or an apartment building, it still takes a certain amount of time to build it, right?
Yeah, and even if they get modular and all that, I mean, it was like, okay, suddenly we don't have enough homes. Like, we knew that we weren't going to have enough homes in 2015, and the Liberal government had money that they was going to set aside for stimulating home growth, but didn't really do it. Didn't do it at all.
Well,
Then the Ontario government comes up with this build back better faster, or build homes faster strategy. And that was pretty good. It gave incentives to the different municipalities, and you get X amount of money depending on how many housing starts you have. Well, everybody found that was kind of difficult to get housing starts because there's just so many contractors, that can do that.
Yeah, and a contractor can move from one job to another, but there's only so many contractors available.
And what do we find? Our all of our cities, there's a sunset clause in almost every new development that comes forward to city council, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, and why is that? Because they found that they had a lot of people starting things and not finishing them, holding on, projects that never started or never got finished. So they have these 3-year sunset clause. Get your shovel in the ground, or we're going to pull the permit on it and maybe give it to someone else.
Well, the worst about some of these is that we've got now, like that one at Main at Ferry and Stanley. They dug a great big pit. Nothing going up.
Yeah.
Where's the next stage? We got to make sure all the stages have got to be gone one after another. It's not just stage one, it's getting to all the stages sequentially. And I think it looks to me like that developers run out of money.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
And even then, let's say the developer wanted to go gung ho. Now he's got to compete with every other city that's trying to put up buildings.
Yeah.
Where are the tradesmen going? You got your carpenters, your electricians, your laborers. They're all working on everywhere. Like every city saying, hey, come here, start shoveling here in our city. Come on. And where we find we just don't have enough people.
Well, the contractors, the contractors are limited, right?
Yeah, seriously, that this whole idea that you're going to get incentive, like we didn't get the incentive money, did we? Or at least we were appealing the incentive money from the government because we didn't start enough new homes, and so
I don't think we haven't got a right to it. End of story.
Yeah, we didn't start enough.
Yeah,
whereas I think St. Catharines got theirs.
Yeah,
they got incentive.
It's questionable whether St. Catharines did. I think they were made it by 0.1.
Yeah,
percentage.
And that incentive is great during ordinary times, but we can't get them going. And plus, I think somewhere in the articles you pointed out there was there are probably 600,000 ineligible migrants in Canada right now. People who came into the country and haven't left with their visas, about 600,000. And that's putting a big strain on housing and apartments and all that. The government can't get them to leave.
Yeah.
And so that's a big issue too. So as long as these people are here, they're going to push the price of rentals up and so on. I don't know. I got that bloody cold going on here. Yeah. Anyway, so.
Well, they're talking here about more interest in modular housing. Modular housing only works to a certain degree because basically you can bring it like a container from the factory to the site.
I'm watching a residence, an old age residence, a seniors residence being built. I forget the road, Oakwood, is it? Anyway, so they it was all modular, it was all sectionized, and like the doors and the windows are already in place in concrete slabs, basically, that had a nice face of
well, they bring it in like a container, right?
Yeah, and they just pull it up and swing it in and fit it into the next one. So it's all done. It's all pre-done, and it's put together with precision. Wow, I've never seen quite anything go up that fast myself.
Yeah, but again,
once you put it up, it goes up quick.
But again, in the factory, you're still going to make these parts in the factory, right?
Yeah, they'll have to be made, but what it makes it's easier to make them in controlled situations according to plan, and then you ship them. And because I was there when truckloads of these sections came, and I watched them rig them up. Of course, anytime I see cranes and rigging, I always take an interest because it's taking me back to my own work experiences, right? So I see the guys rigging this stuff up and taking the whole piece out. So there's a window in it and a door already in this piece, already done, glass window, and you just pick it up, swing it over, and drop it into place.
Yeah.
Then fasten it. So it's really, really
The
good.
only thing about that, of course,
very,
is
very fast.
Yeah. The only thing about that, of course, is what you have to do before you put each unit into place is make sure that you put the things like the waterworks through, you connect the waterworks and things like that, the waterworks and power.
Well, imagine that. Build a whole building if you don't have any power or water. Uh-oh. Somebody's getting in trouble on this one. No, well, that's the reason why they're putting it in places where there is already sewer and water.
Yeah.
Part of the reason they're doing it like that because it saves a lot of time. Expanding a lot of the infrastructure that is already there.
And the interesting thing about what you were saying there is the trucks pull up, and it's important that those trucks arrive part number 1, part number 2, part number 3, because what you don't want is a truck arriving with part number 15 before part number 1's arrived.
Or the wrong parts, and the next thing you know, you're building a condo, and next thing you know, it looks like the Taj Mahal. Hey, this doesn't look like the plans.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, that one's as well, because you've got to have these have got to slot right in place.
It's pretty I don't think they could make any mistake really, because the truck goes from where it's fabbed. All the sections are on the truck, and they just keep coming day after day. There's one truck, and it unloads its stuff, and then they go off, and they go again, get another load. It's really interesting how they do it. Like I watched them for some time, and how they just pick up the sections and bolt them into place, basically.
Yeah.
Smart move. It speed up production. And not only that, you have tight control over the sections in an area where you can build them. Presumably protected from the weather and all these other things. You can do that and then swing them into place once they're done.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that these are actually fairly, the building work in the factories of, well, you think about it, you can probably pour concrete into a pre-molded situation, can't you?
Well, yeah, it's all done that way. But the planning, the planning, the prefab planning is the big thing. Is you have to get your architects and your engineers all together. The kind of concrete is essential. What type you're going to use, all that. It makes it's all very, very important how that's done.
All right, okay. Missed that. Put that one in the wrong thing. Okay. No, the wrong one. Okay, no. Okay. Right. Come on. Okay, let's move on. So Niagara-on-the-Lake is actually Heritage Committee is approving a new thing to replace the shingles on the museum. What they're doing is they're replacing the asphalt shingles that are currently there with fiberglass shingles, because the new shingles are consistent with the previous building's restoration work.
I don't see what the whole hoofera is. The old shingles, the asphalt shingles, are degrading. Now, obviously, when the building was built in 1875, it did not have asphalt shingles on it.
Yeah.
So replacing asphalt shingles with fiberglass shingles, to me, it just makes more sense. I mean, if you had cedar shakes on it, then okay, maybe put them on. But obviously, that building did not have uh, asphalt shingles on when it was built in 1875. I don't know why they're in such a tizzy. All they have to do is replace the now old asphalt shingles that are starting to come off,
Yeah.
and they have to avoid water damage, so they have to do it in a timely way. So replace them. Replace them with a better quality shingle. Put fiberglass ones. They're going to last longer. It's going to be stronger. So I just don't understand why they're in such a tizzy. Can you figure that out?
Well, I can understand if what they're trying to do is be historically correct, but I don't know that they're trying to do that because fiberglass doesn't give that, does it? Fiberglass wouldn't have existed back in 18 whatever when it was built.
Well, asphalt shingles either.
Yeah, quite.
So
You've just got to build them up to. I think you've got to build it, look after the building, go with whatever's the most cost effective.
Yeah, really, it's I don't know why they make it sound like it's a really important decision, and so what you have is asphalt shingles falling off. Their time is done, and to avoid getting any kind of water damage, you should change the shingles.
Yeah, 1875.
So what is the decision here? Do they want to go back to asphalt shingles, or they want to go to fiberglass shingles? It really doesn't seem to make much difference because neither one existed in 1875.
Yeah, exactly.
If anything, the roof might have been slate at one time, but I doubt it. It was much more likely cedar shingles that were up there at that time because there was an abundance of all that at that time in and around Niagara on the Lake.
Well, why, if it was cedar shingles, why aren't they replacing it with cedar shingles?
My first house, had cedar shingles underneath asphalt shingles. So it was a cedar, there were cedar shingles on my house. It was built in 1813, and then somewhere along the line, they put more shingles on top, asphalt ones on top of that. And then eventually that had to be completely stripped. And but it was all these old cedar shingles that was underneath. So I imagine that old school originally had cedar shingles. So I don't know. So we got this article up here. I mean, it sounds like an excuse to write an article. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you put it that way because unless you are literally deciding that you've got to go back to the correct historical ones, one shingle is as good as another, isn't it?
Yeah, really. It's just.
And 1875 is, if you had a house that was built in 1875 and you were putting new shingles on it, you wouldn't even bat an eyelid as to what, you'd be putting the newest, whatever asphalt shingles or whatever the latest shingles were, right?
Yeah, some people with money could have put cedar shingles on it because you can still get them. I've seen that happening where people have got loot.
Yeah, but they're very costly.
Yeah. So in this particular case, because there's asphalt shingles, put them fiberglass ones. Who cares? I mean, as long as they're not like pink or magenta or something like that, that takes away from the character of the school. Basically, just plain shingles, or if they can look in historical records to find out what the color of the original shingles might have been, maybe they could duplicate that. But to me, it's just like an article for the sake of writing an article.
It's like museum, not school, by the way.
Yeah, it's like two women trying to figure out what they're going to wear to the wedding. Should I wear this? Should I wear that? Should I wear this? I mean, it's like
and the man
important,
And the man looks at him and says, whichever dress you wear, you look pretty in it.
Yeah, the men just got to shut up. That's it. Don't look. If you give your opinion like I did, and believe me, for any young men out there, let me give you some advice from an old guy. Do not give an honest opinion. Do not. Do not. No. If your wife comes home with a dress or an article of clothes and says, "What do you think?" And
Does
then
my
you
bum
say,
look big in this? Is the
yeah,
worst question.
and you say, "Oh, you look fine, dear," and they say, "Oh, come on, really? Tell me, really? Oh, no, dear, you look fine. Come on, I know. Come on, tell me the truth. I know you have to." And then you say, "Oh, well, it makes you look old, or it makes you look, whatever." Then that's it. You've lost it, man. They don't like you anymore for 3 months. So, and then they tell all their friends, "You know what he said about my outfit." So do not have any honest opinions about women's clothes. Just smile and say, "I love it, darling."
And there's from the old divorced guy.
Yes, there you go. So,
And
I fell into that trap a few times. Oh no, tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. And I did.
and to be quite honest, um, building it's got its heritage status. That doesn't necessarily, if you were redoing an 1875 house, you just do it with whatever materials you considered look good on the house, right? Get on and do it. Get on and do it is what I say.
Well, yeah. So what else we got? Because that's just
Yeah.
that's just fluff. I mean,
Okay, we got a couple of
it brought up the heritage. I've seen that school which is now a museum, and it's a first museum of a kind, basically a specific type of museum. And I've seen it. I've walked by it several times in the last couple of years, and and so it's nice. I mean, it's a nice thing that they saved it and all of that. But so it's kind of interesting, but I don't really understand why the hoofra of what kind of shingles they should be using.
No, and I'm not, and the thing is, the other question about that is that, so long as it's what you have to consider probably is the length of time you got, length of time, the possibility of keeping it, and how much you spend. So long as you get a good cost to years ratio, I think you're good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is that then? What else we got?
Yep. Okay, so we're moving on to this. Police are searching for somebody in shooting suspect in Welland. Right. I just added this one in because I'm like, okay, we're getting increasingly violent in our area. Used to be a time when we didn't hear about deaths in the Niagara region at all, except maybe once every 3 or 4 years. And usually it was an outsider. This one, they're searching for this 28-year-old guy who was wanted for aggravated assault, discharge of a firearm, and 2 counts of possession of a loaded gun. And he's believed to be in the Hamilton area right now.
Yeah, too many guns are coming over the border. So when the U.S. is saying, "Oh well, we got fentanyl, too much fentanyl coming from Canada and all that," well, guns and fentanyl are coming the other way, and nobody ever says anything like that because they don't want to offend the big orange guy. But anyway,
yeah. Well, in fact, actually, it's all too easy to get guns. We're also, the stats are going up. This is about the second or third shooting we've heard about in the Niagara region already this year, right?
Yeah. So normally we don't do crime things here, but
yeah. Well, crime becomes a political issue when it starts to rank up like this, right? I don't give names because I don't want to get into that glorification of the crime thing that some criminals are into. Hey, I made it to the front page. No, I'm not giving you that credit.
So be on the lookout for this guy called Sean Krowick or something like that, Krowick, and who is wanted for assault, discharging of firearms, 2 counts of possession of a loaded gun. He's in the
What of course bothers me about some of this is when they pick him up, what are they going to do? They'll probably bail him out in 24 hours.
I don't think they should if he's been shooting people. That is a clear danger to the public. So if somebody is bailed out, the justice has to determine if he's going to be a danger to the public. And obviously, if he's been shooting people, he's a danger to the public. I say he stays in the Crowbar Hotel.
Yeah, I would agree, but we're just getting too much of this stuff, letting people out. Yeah, and but we need to protect the public more. And I don't know what are we doing? Why have we got too many guns? Why have we got so much? So many more crimes of violence happening these days. That's what bothers me.
Well, guns are coming across the border in a big way. It's easy to get them.
Yeah.
There's like when I was down in Florida, every pawn shop had guns for sale. So basically, somebody's bought a gun, can't afford it, and pawned it. And every pawn shop had all kinds of pistols in there, rifles too, but mostly pistols. And they were just like, and I mean, I think it's hard. The estimates are hard. When we were discussing this subject years ago, one of the articles we were reading, anything from about 300,000 to over 600,000 illegal guns floating around out there. So they're not quite sure how many, but they know it's like hundreds of thousands of guns that are just, they don't have any owner and they're just floating around. And those are the guns that quite often come across the border.
Yeah. Well, and there's too much, too easy to get hold of. And I know what you're saying. It's too easy.
And they had stupid stuff even in New York State at one time. If you said that you had lost your gun, then you could get another one. But if you lost the gun, what they were doing was they were selling their guns to somebody so they didn't have to go get the paperwork for it. So they sell a gun to somebody, then report their guns lost or stolen. And meanwhile, somebody's got this gun that's not registered. And then they go and buy themselves another gun. And that was a kind of a thing that was going on. It took them a while to catch up to that one.
Yeah. But I presume
this guy that 3 times a year loses his gun. Well, that's because he's selling it to somebody that wouldn't be able to get a gun otherwise.
Well, I'm presuming that things like pawn shops, you still have to get a license.
Yeah, but it's just a lot easier. They had the firearm shows, tent shows in Florida for the longest time, and you didn't need much at all.
Yeah,
you didn't need much at all. You just walked in with your ID. They signed you up and gave you the gun. But I'm pretty sure a lot of that's kind of tightened up a bit now. But they love their guns down there, and unfortunately, those guns are coming across the border.
They're coming across the border. Yeah. Okay. And Betty's basically saying mental issues, no doubt. And the thing is, a lot of criminals have got mental conditions. That's for sure, Betty.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we see reported on the news on a regular basis is about mental illness with a lot of criminals.
Yeah. So and anyway, but in this case, it looks to me as if he's just a ne'er-do-well, a bad dude.
Yeah.
And I hope he's only 28 years old, so I hope somebody I hope he finds his way out of where he's going, because it's a dead end road, and he's going to find himself in prison, and he's going to be telling us a story like Sully told us a story about spending 17 years in prison.
Yeah. Okay, so next one, no hours, no prom. So they're looking at you got to do 40 hours of volunteer work at schools, and if you don't do the hours, you're not going to go to prom.
Well, in that
You may
particular
graduate, but you're not going to go back. You're not going to go have your prom.
in that particular school, but other ones you couldn't graduate without the 40 hours. They wouldn't let you graduate, but I'm pretty sure that they were, in push comes to shove, they let you graduate, but they're not going to let you go to the prom because you didn't get your volunteer hours in. That's rather unfair. But in this particular case, they cite a young lady who's had to work a lot to go through school, so she's had to have part-time jobs and everything, and so she was short by 28 hours on her volunteer hours.
I would have said that if she was short by 2 hours, fine, but 28 hours is clear that you haven't been on board with the program.
No, I haven't even tried. But
yeah,
on the other hand, there's another person that's in there, and they've had thousands of volunteers hours. So those are the two. So the question is this thing really working? Is the community hour thing really working? Well, we've now someone, my own sons and my nephews and nieces all had to run around and try to get volunteer hours here and there. You know, it wasn't very hard for them. There was places where they could get volunteer hours.
But it occurs to me that, for example, you've got a ton of time to do it. It's like 1 or 2 years to do it, haven't you?
4 years.
And doing. Pardon me?
You have 4 years to do it.
4 years to do it. Okay, so volunteering 4 years and 40 hours. So that's basically 10 hours a year. Yeah. And I could do volunteering. Let's say that if you're in school, hey, come along to a Kiwanis meeting.
Well, you know what? What happens is they leave it to the last minute, and then they're running around. And you got everybody that's left it to the last minute trying to eat up whatever volunteer hours are out there.
Yeah.
It's not hard to volunteer. You can find places to volunteer all the time. Soup kitchen, project share. You can volunteer. Salvation Army kettles, you could do that. If you did Salvation Army kettles, you could do a lot of your like I think I had 12 shifts this year myself. 12 shifts of on the kettles. So, I don't know how long, what they're 2 hours each, right? There's 24 hours right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly. So volunteer, do the work, and the whole point about volunteering is it's done for a reason, because there's actually, by going out into the community, volunteering your time actually ultimately helps you get a job and things like that, right?
Yes, indeed it does.
Right. So the whole point is that people know, you get to know more people because you volunteer, and that's the whole point about this. And kids, I get it if maybe you fall short, you're going to be fine. But I also, I accept that that getting, measuring it up to kind of graduating is an important aspect. And, what are you going to do? You've got plenty of time to get this. As you said, 4 years and 40 hours. Well, don't leave it to the last minute ever.
Well, the article is also saying, does it work? Does it really get everybody in line with how to make a better citizen, to make them more responsible, to let them understand that there's volunteer work out there? I think it does sort of broaden the scope of people if they go on a Salvation Army kettle, if they go down a project share, They go, even to their church, basically. If they're helping out there, a lot of the students go to the senior centers and talk to old seniors and and help them out.
Yeah.
Sometimes or just keep them company, that kind of thing. Then that's a good thing because when you get seniors, they got nobody to talk to. You just love to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, and that's actually, I remember when I was taxi driving, I took these students to a seniors home in the falls somewhere, I forget where, but but they did these hours for the school and volunteer hours. And interesting thing is that you get taxied there and things like that, right?
Well, that's kind of unusual, but from the school itself,
Yeah, school paid. Yeah.
school paid. Oh
Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
kind of unusual.
Yeah.
We might not find a whole lot of that going on anymore, but because of tight budgets and so on. But the
Maybe.
thing is, so these are the kind of things you can do as young students could do. Sort of, it broadens their scope too, gets them away from the electronics too. As a matter of fact, they have to talk to real people. If you're on if you're at Project Share or a soup kitchen and doing work there, it's pretty impossible to keep getting your phone out and sticking your face in it with the stuff you got to do.
Okay, so the big question is mandatory or not?
I believe it should be mandatory because if it's not, no one will do it. And unfortunately, you have there's a lot of talk about, do we need math? Is math credit mandatory? Yeah, it is. If you take away mandatory requirements, then what are you left with? Nothing. Wimpy stuff. I mean, this is an effort to make students a little bit more aware of their surroundings.
Yeah.
And we live in a rather prosperous society, so it's important. It's important for students to really know.
If I was gonna say something about schooling, I'd have to be saying, well, how come we seem to be very bad at our English these days? Kids are leaving school without an ability to speak English.
Well, that's been going on for quite a while. And as a matter of fact, in universities, that famous case with Shepherd, I forget her first name, getting involved with the super woke school officials there. Laura Shepherd, her name was? I can't remember her name. Anyway.
Well, many universities are giving English as a mandatory first semester course.
Yeah, that's exactly what she did. She had to teach everybody that was coming into the school how to write a sentence, how to write, seriously, we learned that back in public school, but so when they get to university, they can't write a proper sentence. They can't write a paragraph. And so they have special little courses on helping students get out of high school who don't know how to read and write properly. Well, read they can, but write or punctuate or anything like that. I mean, if you're going to write any kind of paper, whether it's philosophical or whether it's engineering, you're going to have to know how to read and write properly. Yeah. Sadly, that's the first thing they're starting to teach in university. So that's been going on for some time.
And this is something that should have been taught in school.
Yeah, but I don't know. We just get weaker and weaker in our obligations towards our students because we can't force them to do this, and we can't force them to do that, and we can't fail them, and we can't this, and we can't that. So you're left with people graduating that never finished the work, and because they got to graduate them, you can't not graduate them. So they came in not reading and writing, and they left not reading and writing, and you gave them a certificate for a diploma. So if they go any further, guess what? They can't read or write.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, though, one of the things about volunteer, you see, I was never, when I was young, I was never into volunteering. I have to be honest about it. And kind of what my dad's view upon volunteering was, well, I'm not going to do my boss's work for him, right? I'm not going to volunteer hours, make my boss money for him without me being paid money.
Oh yeah, but you wouldn't be volunteering for your boss, would you? You'd be volunteering for your neighbor,
Well, I was going to say
the
volunteering.
local church down the
Well,
road there.
yeah, but there was a lot of things that were volunteering, like there were people volunteering to do cleanups at his workplace because
Oh,
it
well,
was
in that case, yeah, perfectly sound. I did my job here. Somebody else has to be paid to clean it up. I'm not going to clean it up. Well, unless I'm getting paid.
yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
I'm getting paid.
exactly. That was his viewpoint upon it. He wasn't going to do it unless he was going to get paid. But then again, one of the things about volunteering
That's
is,
a wholly different thing.
yeah,
Completely different.
yeah. But again, you meet people volunteering, don't you?
You meet people volunteering, and you look. Sunday night, last night, I was a caller in bingo, right? And in there was 4 other volunteers beside me. I'm a volunteer, and there was 2 volunteers on the phones, 1 on the computers, and the one guy overseeing us all, right? So there's volunteers right there. And today there will be volunteers going out to switch to put the new cards out there and collect the money. I'll be doing that at 8 o'clock or close to it. And so basically, there's volunteers of all kinds of stripes, and you can't pay. Like, I don't want any pay for it, but if you paid them, what good would that be? Like in our particular case, if you paid those volunteers to come to the studio last night, what good is that? You're taking away money.
It's a different, and it's a different thing, you know. Hey, you wouldn't be as well known as you are, but for the volunteering that you do by doing that work on the TV, on the bingo.
Yeah, because look, it's money for the community, and so we don't take any money for it. The people who sell the cards for us don't take any money. The stores don't take any money. It's all very much understood that this is for the community, and nobody gets anything money for it. That's just the way it is. and so that's volunteering. So that's good. And all the other volunteers out there, the Rotary and the Lions and all the other people that do.
Okay, so one question for you. Many kids do what do you call it? Placements in school. Should placements count as volunteer hours?
What are placements?
Where you do work placements?
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. No. Okay. I'm just asking the question.
Completely different.
Yeah. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Apples and oranges, basically.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that one. Yeah. So I think you've got 4 years to do your 40 hours. That's 10 hours a year. That's nothing.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, every kid seems to put it on the back burner and then has to rush around, try to get their hours in. But they have teachers and they have places where they can go and get them. I know I get a few phone calls every once in a while. Is there any place where my son or daughter can volunteer?
Volunteering, yeah.
One of us says, no, not with us, but you can. I mean, there's a soup kitchen, there's Project Share, there's Salvation Army. There's a pile of different places you can. Anyway, it's 8 o'clock. Shall I say goodbye? I will. I will say goodbye.
Yeah, I think we can say goodbye and thank you everybody for listening and making your comments, etc., etc. And Dave?
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Do not forget about Gaza. Gaza is in a terrible shape right now, and the whole world is ignoring it. Like they're hoping that it will go away, and it will not go away.
Yeah.
So keep that right up in the front of your mind, because somebody's going to have to think about them. Pray for peace.